You've tuned in to chipsgrooveradio with your hosts, Mike and John.
Finally caught up on Nastygram last night. Stayed up till midnight playing Mortal Kombat 1.
Nice.
And I was listening to you guys.
How'd you enjoy my arc? My episode?
That was a good time.
Nice.
Both of them, that sea creature fight was enjoyable.
Yeah.
That was a good time. Yeah. That was a good time. You guys are having some fun.
Yeah. This
That's
is
good.
It's definitely more of a lighthearted arc for sure.
Mm-hmm. Is Josh just more busy? Is that why he's not doing anything right now?
This was,
yeah, I guess this was probably a while ago. But
yeah. I mean, he since he's a firefighter, he's like 24, or 48 on, 48 off kind of thing. So every once in a while, it gets in the way of recording. So that's mostly why.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in a bunch of them, and he's in this one, and then he ran the last one, the one that it will be probably the last episode of the arc. So.
That's actually pretty cool that he can step away and still have it be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's really cool that you guys got that.
Yeah, Matt actually edited his own episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this latest one.
Nice. Well, it all sounded good, so it came out really nice.
Yeah.
But as for Far Cry,
yeah,
I've never played a Far Cry game.
Really?
I don't know if you have. I have
I've
not.
played a couple. I've actually beaten. I have a track record of not beating games, and I've beaten a Far Cry game. I think it was Far Cry 4. So yeah, I played I think I started playing them at Far Cry 3, and I played 3, 4, 5. I think I played a little of 6, but it's kind of the same old at some point, and you're like, I've played 60, 70 hours of. I hide in the bushes. I shoot an arrow at this camp. They all get mad, and then I shoot them, and we take the camp, and hooray.
Are all the Far Cry games, are they standalone games, or are they one story generally? Because
it's standalone, I think. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
I don't...
Excuse me. They all look vastly different.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm not 100% sure.
A lot of them are kind of, you're in the Southeast Asia or the Pacific Islands or in South America. The one where you're in America fighting that cult was pretty cool because it was kind of a departure.
Right.
You know, you're fighting like a Christian or Catholic cult, and they're like because there was a real world example of them where they wanted to take over eastern Oregon and Washington to form like a Christian nation.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like based on that whole thing.
Okay.
So it was interesting.
Kind of the sovereign citizen people.
Yeah.
Who want to have their own government. That's interesting.
I played a lot. This was so. Have you ever been fooled by a April Fool's joke that a company put out?
You know what? I think I was. I'm trying to think what it was though. It was a while ago, but someone released something, and I was like, huh. And then I forgot it was April 1st, and no, that's not happening.
All right.
But no, what is it in relation to this?
This started, I believe, as an April Fool's joke, and actually then was made. Far Cry,
probably crowdfunded or something.
I don't know if they crowdfunded it, but they, or at the very least, it was like a reverse April Fool's joke where it sounded so ridiculous that it had to have been an April Fool's joke, and then they were actually making it as an expansion.
Well, you can tell right away just looking at the cover that it is vastly different than the other Far Cry game.
Yeah.
It's just 100% a completely different experience. So even not having played it, this one stood out to me, and I took a chance on it on vinyl, and I was like, glad I did that. Okay.
Yeah. We're obviously talking about Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, the cyberpunk synth wave.
Man,
kind of April Fool's-y expansion that turned into a real game expansion where there's like cyber dinosaurs and shit like that.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
It was an interesting idea when I was reading about it. But it is so much a love letter to 80s action and sci-fi flicks. And I will say, just to get it out of the way, most prominently the obvious 1984's The Terminator.
Yeah.
So much so that they enlisted the likeness of Michael Biehn for the cover, and he also voiced the main character. And for anyone who doesn't know, Michael Biehn is Kyle Reese in the original Terminator. So yeah, so he signed up for this, and it's a good thing he did, because it just brings another level of authenticity to it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, I played a ton of Far Cry games, and this came out, and I thought it would be. I may have been a bit disappointed because in my head I thought it was going to be so off the wall that it would have been something totally different from Far Cry. And I looked at my Steam hours. I only played like 5 hours of it. I don't think it caught me too much.
That's how you tell someone's interest level. It's like, no, the Steam hours are low. This one didn't grab John.
No.
Okay.
Maybe if I go back to it, it'd be more interesting. But yeah, I've beaten Far Cry games and I barely touched Blood Dragon.
That's interesting. Maybe it just wasn't the right time.
Maybe
this kind of game for you. But
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, diving in, the story is a little ludicrous, but it's campy fun. Rex Colt is the protagonist, played again by Michael Biehn. Mm-hmm. He's recruited by a disillusioned accomplice of the bad guy, Sloan, who has expressed goals, I guess, of reverting the world back to prehistoric times through his deadly weapons. And I don't know exactly how he's going to do that, but despite his best efforts, Sloan is defeated by Colt. And the game itself has plenty of 80s references, including what I read about Rex Colt fighting to recover and remember his humanity, a la RoboCop. Mm-hmm. So he is a cyborg, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
So you play like a half human, half machine, badass super soldier, pretty much. And I guess at one point he struggles with the meaning of life and who he is and who he was, just like RoboCop. But
I mean, what cyborg doesn't, you know?
Right. Yeah. You got to have it at least once. But the soundtrack itself is composed by Power Glove. They are an Australian synthwave band consisting of two brothers, Joel and Jerome Harmsworth, but they go under the pseudonyms Michael Biehn, appropriately, and Michael Dudikoff. So, for some reason, they can't use their real names, but they have a real passion for this, I think. And it really shines.
It was interesting. I looked at the who composed it and what they've done before. They obviously have been producing songs in that synthwave, dark wave kind of genre, but they haven't done any other video game soundtracks except for
really not. Yeah, they don't have an extensive library, but people knew about them and they were actually sought out for this project, which I thought was kind of cool. So they had made enough of a splash somewhere that the producers were like, we want to kind of put the icing on the cake of this ridiculous game and get someone who knows what they're doing with synth. And they did, reached out and it turned out pretty well.
Yeah, it's interesting that this, I'm trying to think back of when that came out. I wasn't ever really into synthwave all that much until Blood Dragon came out, and I kind of got into the music, I think, more than I got into the actual game, and it kind of led me on to that journey of Carpenter Brute and Gunship and all the big names in synthwave, and I haven't really looked back at Blood Dragon, so it was interesting to listen to this again, and see where I came from synthwave perspective.
Yeah, I think the passion for this whole project was pretty high. Ubisoft spent a lot of time trying to really nail the aesthetic of the 80s, both visually and sonically. purple lasers, pink, vibrant colors, all that kind of stuff. And they did so while also delivering a story that's just as pleasing to any fan of the action genre. I think it's really easy to say that the album is 100% synthesizer with electronic drums, and it all just fits, right? So when you listen to it, again, me not having played the game, it evokes certain imagery for me and a different time. And I think that's pretty successful for me.
Yeah, I think the game itself, while obviously 80s is a huge, huge influence on it, it's like an homage to a glamified, glorified version of the 80s. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not an homage to the 80s. It's an homage to what
Hollywood
thoughts
maybe.
of with the Hollywood version of the 80s is.
Kind of like Hotline Miami was this glorified version of the criminal underbelly of a Hollywood movie or something. Like, we all associate these things with the 80s, like drug smuggling and crazy action and driving down the coastline or whatever. But that's all very 80s, spiced up and fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the actual game itself is for sure full of a ton of 80s tropes and 80s movies tropes, which is good and bad, and maybe that's why it didn't click with me that much, because while I was born in the 80s, I don't really consider myself an 80s kid, and I never really had this nostalgic feeling when it came to the 80s. So when people try to pull on those heartstrings, it doesn't really work for me, I guess.
Yeah, that explains your Steam hours. I can. It's all coming together.
It's all coming together.
Well, and that's funny because I don't consider myself an 80s kid either, because obviously I was only 6 when they ended. Yeah. So, I grew up in the 90s largely, and I would say that while I don't have a certain... I want to have a love for the 80s, and I want to have had the experience of growing up in the 80s, but I just simply can't remember all that much. So it is coincidental that a lot of my favorite music is from the 80s, but it's just, I think that's just me, who I am. It's not really, I grew up in the 80s and I'm remembering it. I enjoy this kind of stuff just because I think the 80s musically has always been important to me. So maybe that's why this one's hitting me a little bit better. But the first song I want to talk about, just to get it out of the way, because they did draw key influences, I would say, from the Terminator. I have to mention Rex Cult. Yes. It is the most blatant example of direct inspiration. Exactly. If the main drive of the song doesn't imply Terminator, I really don't know what does. Yep. They open with almost the same haunting beat from the main theme of the original movie, and they add just enough changes to keep it from a lawsuit. It does its job, but it's really fun to hear, and it tells the listener, okay, this is the kind of experience you're about to have, right? If you have any experience with 80s action, this is probably the direction you're going to be going. So I think they succeeded on that level, and some people might they might think it's lazy. They might think it's plagiarism. To throw a word out there, to have song so closely resemble an actual other property that, but I think it's okay in this respect, right? They're trying to pay homage, and I think they're not hiding it. If they were trying to hide it, then it would be like, okay, what are you doing here?
But this is like border of parody and homage, right? Like it's on those two lines. I think in some respects, Blood Dragon, while it is an homage to the 80s, at some level does also parody the tropes of the 80s, and this kind of goes along with that.
So it's very similar in theme and tone in this song. Again, Rex Cult. It's literally a couple drum beats off of the Terminator theme intro, and then it kind of ramps up just like that theme does, and they start getting very close to it, but they just shy. But it does its job, and I appreciated it. So I wanted to draw attention to the intro song, Rex Cult.
Yeah, I think while Rex Cult is more of, it's like a theme song to the idea of this game. I think one of the most solid tracks that kind of epitomizes the sound that I remember in this soundtrack, and kind of the feeling that you get in this game is Power Core. It is just, I feel like it's a very solid synthwave song. The intro punches us in the gut with that like deep bass and drum kicks, and like a synth bass line, all delivered in that muffled tone, and then it kind of clarifies. Like we're opening the door to a club, right?
It's funny you say that, because that triplet, dun-dun-dun, it reminds me immediately of Hotline Miami. Now that we were just talking about it, but it's got that very club scene. This is pretty dangerous. Something might be happening here. There's a seedy underbelly, and what problems are we going to face here? But yeah, this song is very good. It's got a very good atmosphere to it.
Yeah, the melody starts to fill out with those like dueling grungy synthesizers that are playing these arpeggios. That is just traveling up and down. In the middle, there's the percussion kind of falls away, and you have a little bit of a jam session in the middle. And then towards the end, it's just a cacophony of all of these dueling melodies before it ends. It's a great, like, it's a really good synthwave song, and it gives you that sense of brooding action that this game kind of has.
Yeah, and that dirty synth you're talking about in the center, it really gives. I draw to that kind of stuff because it's got this rawness to it, which is of course manufactured, but it's not as crisp as everything else, right? So it draws you in a little bit more. You get a sense of more intensity with that kind of stuff, or at least I do. And I think when all the other instruments fade away, it's like, all right, we've got a buildup going on here. And then on your way to the end of the song, it gets a little more chaotic. And I think that's so well done.
Yeah, for sure.
Quite possibly, I would say, my favorite track, if not second. There are two on here that I want to draw attention to by the end of the show, and this is one of them. Blood Dragon theme. Yeah, you just can't not mention this song. It's got so many laser textures and snappy electronic drums that I'm just having like this orgy of neon lights in my head when I'm listening to it. It's just punchy and vibrant with its bass line. That bass is never ending, by the way. It's moving the song forward in a very action-packed melody. You can get a lot of things when listening to this track, from car chases to gunfights to tense moments between foes or like a wild cat and mouse game. The track is just 100% 80s action flick, and I enjoy it a lot.
I love the kind of synth trumpet, flares that they have in there. It's a really fun track to listen to, and I think it's a great chasing track.
Absolutely,
it is. This also feels a lot like Hotline Miami in terms of its themes.
Oh yeah.
It gives that Miami 80s vibe a bit to the song, and but it's a fun ride, and the little synth trumpets are like killer to me.
And they're just corny enough to not be bad, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's complete with melody changes and shifts that really bring the tone both up and down, and while that's happening, the bass line just keeps going to provide that through line and keep the song this just cohesive gem on the record. So yeah, synth melody on top of bass just screams exciting for me. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great track. Yeah, another one that I think is maybe a bit similar to Powercore, but it's different in a way that I think is interesting. It's Sloan's Assault.
Okay.
It just the name says it all for the style they're going for. You're assaulting something. This is combat. But instead of the more chaotic dueling melodies that you had in Powercore, you get more of a consistent driving descending scale backed by this ever-present 16th note machine gun, either in the form of the hi-hat or the bass. You get this nice lull in the fighting, like 2/3 in, that you're taking your breath, you're catching your breath, but the machine gun brings you right back for the last chorus. It's a great combat assault, like building assault, soundtrack.
Yeah, and this could go either way. It says Sloan's Assault, so it could be him attacking a bunch of people, which is likely what's happening.
Yeah.
Or it could be you assaulting him because you're trying to take him out on his island or whatever. But it's got such an intensity behind it with those 16th notes, and man, it never lets up. It's cool because they seem like they're always there, but the stuff that's happening on top of it can be very, very melodic, very slow to build, but it adds this brooding intensity that's just, oh man, it makes the song so powerful.
And I love how the descending melodies, it changes the waveform as it goes, kind of opens up and closes the I guess squareness of it. I don't know. I'm not a musician. What do I know? But
neither of us are.
The way you can tell the sound waves are changing shape as it opens and closes, it moving up and down, giving it kind of that breath of this. You're breathing hard as this machine guns are going off around you, and you're assaulting or being assaulted, on this island. It's a great fight track.
Yeah, so much could be happening in this, and the song has your adrenaline is just going when you're listening to this, and that you get that small respite towards the end, like we were talking about, but the intensity is still there. You still feel that pressure, whatever situation you might be in. But that moment where you catch your breath is not very calm, I'll say.
Yeah.
Despite what the song is telling you.
Right.
So Omega Force is one that I actually drew to as well. It's a little bit more of a downer. And I don't mean that. It's just a little less in your face, I guess is the best way to say it.
Right.
Terrible things are happening in this song. It has a low thumping bass that doesn't really move. Meanwhile, we have sporadic reverb-laden drums, which anyone who knows anything about 80s cinema, that always means something bad or intense is happening. When they add that reverb to your drum or your percussion, it's like, oh boy, something big's happening. There's a light synthesizer playing these grieving horns in the distance while everything else is up front in the song. And as it progresses, the key changes a bit and becomes slightly more sinister and dark. Scaling dirty synth winds up and takes the song into a very much more desperate situation in the middle. The thumping bass drops out while the synth takes over completely, and it's here where the drumming gets more beat-oriented and frantic, the hi-hat really implying haste, and the bass drum taking over for that thumping bass that's been with us since the beginning of the song. So they the bass stops, and then the bass drum picks up right where it left off. Mm-hmm. But that beat has now progressed. It's now getting faster. And it's just a fun change for the song because while the second half is decidedly more lively, the mood is still pretty consistent throughout, I would say. It goes from tragedy to maybe revenge or newfound power.
You're dwelling on the things that have gone wrong, and as the song turns, your anger starts to build, and you're ready to get out there. Yeah, it has that faster synth as it starts to build up. The hi-hats are playing, the key changes into a minor key, and it starts to build up. Yeah, I like in the beginning where you have those lone snare drums with the reverb. Yeah, that's a very 80s thing. That like you're saying, that sorrowful feeling that you have. It's a very good change of pace for this album.
Yeah, and that scaling synth in the background towards the second or the last third is just, I love it.
Yeah, it's great. Another change of pace for this album, and one that I wanted to, the last one I really wanted to point out was is Nest. Ooh. It starts with this very ominous low thrum with echoey percussion, kind of like in Omega Force. It gives us the start of the song just some real tension. You get that occasional timpani hit or cymbal that grabs your attention as you creep through a cavern or something, watched by an unknown creature. I'm getting Aliens vibe from this track.
Oh yeah,
big
absolutely.
Time. The tension and suspense turn into pure terror towards the end of the song as the creature starts to chase you. It's one of the standout tracks when it comes to an ambient track. Like playing this for like a horror game would be perfect.
Yeah, this is haunting, and it is a major departure, I would say, from the rest of the album. And it's still got that, obviously synth atmosphere to it, but they add this horror aspect to it that's very on point, and it gives what is decidedly, I would guess this game is not very traumatic, but this song adds a level of fear that you probably weren't expecting. Yeah. For whatever section of the game this is, this song just takes it to a real level for the player, I would say. Mm-hmm. And it's very welcome for me because it's departure on the album, but still very well done.
Yeah, it in the middle where it turns from tension into terror, it kind of has that those kind of violins that you had in Aliens, where it has that really tense, quick staccato notes in the background, kind of in the distance, and these like mechanical sounds. Listening to it in surround sound, like if you had all lights out, it could be pretty terrifying. I don't know.
I'm gonna hide my alien statue.
Yeah, I know.
Listen to this song.
Put a cover on it. Put a sheet over your alien statue.
Sorry, Boots. You gotta hide. Yes, my wife affectionately named my dog alien statue from Alien 3 Boots.
Aw, little Boots.
It's actually adorable when you look at it. But yes, I'm gonna start putting a sheet over him when
I don't know if that
listen
makes
to
it
this
more
song.
terrifying.
Probably more.
But
yes.
I think it's a great like departure for this album.
Yeah, and I think you're on point with the aliens reference when they're going into the hive for the first time. That this almost lines up with that. You know, it gets very tense. Half of it's very investigative, and they don't know what's going on or where anyone is, and then boom, there's an attack, and they gotta.
They start hearing the motion sensor and all that. Yeah,
they're all around us, man.
Game over, man.
Okay, well, the last song I want to mention, Resurrection. This song, I deciding right now, this is probably gonna beat out Blood Dragon Theme for me for number one on the album, but this song just slays, man.
Yeah.
There's resounding hopefulness and optimism, and you want to talk about departure for the album. Coming off the song you just mentioned, Nest, this has got a completely different feel, and all of the synth instruments here come together to bring a really bright and angelic song. Power Glove succeeds in capturing the title. You find yourself renewed when you listen to it, looking to the future and imagining that rebirth. So the song is really illuminated with the vibrancy of the instruments and their higher tones. Even the opening with that fluttering keywork that eventually leads into the main theme, it's just got this power behind it. You get a real flight moment with those fluttering keys. It's inspirational and elegant, and the power behind when the drums come in, the accenting synth starts, and that main synth melody changes from muddy to crisp. Those changes are extraordinary to me, and it happens just a few seconds into the track, but I live for moments like that in music because it's the takeoff moment, right?
Yeah,
it's like, okay, I get chills in moments like these when the musicians are just really on their game, and this is why music means a lot to me and a lot to a lot of people. When everything comes together, man, this is just one of those moments for me. This song comes together very well for me, and it does it very quickly.
Yeah.
So I got so much pleasure listening to this song.
I believe it's one of the either the last songs of the game or maybe the success. Like
second
you did it
to last, yeah.
This is the reprise, but it has so much hope in it, and yeah, what you're saying, like you get those tingly moments in a song where you are sucked into the narrative of the song, and it's a testament to the musicians and the composers who are able to do that, especially over a game where to some extent it was a tropey 80s game. To have
just lighthearted,
very lighthearted, to have a song that Resurrection is a very meaningful track, and it is very standout from the rest of the album, which is more not kind of one dimensional. A lot of the tracks are fairly one dimensional, like the ones that I mentioned, Stones Assault and Power Core, are pretty one dimensional synthwave songs, and some of the other tracks stand out, but this one is very a very elegant track at the end of this album.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. The other songs, some of the other songs we've mentioned are you get the idea right off the bat, right?
Yeah.
This one has some different levels to it sometimes, so that might be why I draw to it a little bit more than others. But I think that coalescing of the attitude just a few seconds into the track, it's like, wow. And then it just keeps going. So it caught me really early on. And there was, we talked about Bastion with Jesse. And I remember telling you guys, and I even wrote it in my notes when that first song was playing, I was like, I'm fucking on board with this album already because it just happens, Right. And this is one of those songs for me.
Yeah.
So you put this at the first track, I'd be like, fuck yeah, here we go. But what about final thoughts for you, sir? Blood Dragon.
Blood Dragon. I think it is a really good example of a synthwave album or synthwave soundtrack for a game that definitely fits the theme of the game. And for me, it was probably one of the first influences to start listening to synthwave. So in that respects, some of the tracks are one-sided. Some of the songs in this album sound samey. But I think there are enough tracks in this album that divulge from the norm of the game to deliver some new element of feeling and of style that at least keeps you on your toes enough to enjoy it throughout.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think to piggyback off that, I would say Power Glove succeeds at capturing the heart and soul of 80s cinema. They had clear inspirations from, I would say, composers like John Carpenter and, of course, Brad Fiedel, who did the first and second Terminator. The duo of Power Glove crafted a soundtrack that would nestle itself right at home with plenty of film from the time. So they did their job. And I would say they give the game life in such a way that it pays homage to the thrilling nature of the 80s A and B action films. Like I stated in the beginning, we were joking a little bit about plagiarism and stuff like that. I would call this deliberate paraphrasing, bordering on the plagiarism.
Yeah. Like
in Rex Colt's song. But it's really not meant to be anything but obvious and respectful. So, you got to let it go. I don't know anyone who's really got a problem with it. I'm just saying the parallels are there, but it was done as, kind of a parody of everything. So, yeah, the album just has a somewhat consistent action and militant feel behind it, but there's always a sense of danger on the record, and there are always pockets of emotion and pockets of difference, like in Nest and Resurrection, where it's not a one-note album. And I would highly recommend people listen to this album because it's just a unique album. It's fun, and it always kept me on board.
Yeah.
It's something you can throw on, while you're cleaning the house or doing some paperwork or something. You can get into it, and you can also enjoy it while you're not paying attention to it. It's one of those albums. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, for sure.
You can buy it on iTunes for sure. They did release it on vinyl on a gorgeous hot pink set. One of my favorite colors for vinyl. I only have, I think, 2 albums that are that color, but it's really the only appropriate color for an album like this. Unfortunately, I do think that's sold out everywhere. You should be able to get it third party at a reasonable price, although I did see some delusional people on eBay listing it for like $200. I'm like,
Louise.
you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
But seriously, seek it out, sit with it, enjoy it. Maybe throw it on during a rewatch of Cobra or Escape from New York. You know, I think it would go well with those movies.
Mm-hmm.
I would give this a 9 out of 10. Half the face is torn off to reveal a red cyborg eye head.
I think I would have to give this, I think 8 out of 10, gloved thumbs up, slowly descending into a pool of lava.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. We enjoy talking to people who aren't there but are there in the future. John, if you would like to say goodbye, please do so.
I'll see you on my island.
Island of robot
Dinosaurs.
I order you to stay here. No, don't go. I cannot self-terminate. So yeah. Well, that's the good album. That was a good time.
Yeah. Do you want to do the outro?
Oh, I guess we can do the outro. I'll keep this in there too.
How do we do this?
Mike's done. Well,
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and subscribe on your podcast app of choice. Also, check out Magus Media's other podcast, This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast for complete episode breakdowns, insightful banter, and inane babble. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Well, hello there, Internet people. My name is Josh, and I am one of the hosts of the Nastagram RPG podcast. We're an actual play podcast, and we're good. And why are we good? Well, let's let the other host tell you. Dan.
Hey, everyone. If you like authentic, real-world sound effects, our lasers go pew-pew.
I love it. Matt.
Skip me. Coming back to Matt.
Ryan.
Okay, so after 2 decades of trying, we finally mastered the 3.5 grapple.
We're not doing that.
We certainly did. Never mind.
Try
Scratch
again.
that. Scratch
Check
that.
it out.
Look it up. John.
If you're looking for a RPG podcast that plays a whole hell of a lot of games, we like to spice the life.
Spice it up.
Spice it up.
Matt, you ready?
Yeah, I think I'm ready. If you enjoy bad accents and overacting, you'll enjoy our podcast.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
And Jake, bring us home.
I like to just say we didn't just throw a phone on the table and hit record. Like, Josh does a damn good job with the editing. And
Facts.
if you care about that, you will not be disappointed.
That's right. We spent a bunch of money that we don't make on the podcast.
100%.
So check us out, Nastagram RPG Podcast. You can find us on all the goddamn podcast apps, and we'll see you there.
That's nasty.